So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths paper of June 2018 Foundation Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. Now I will include a link to the paper which I recommend you have an attempt at before watching this video and going through the answers. Now as always I'll also include the grade boundaries so that once you've marked this individual paper you can see what grade you have attained. So let's get started on this paper 2 calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says circle the expression that can be written as 2y, and that is going to be our first option, which is y plus y. Question 2, it says circle the decimal that is greater than 3/10 and less than 2/5. Well, for this question, what makes it easier is if you convert those two fractions into their decimal equivalent, and we get a decimal number that's between 0.3 and 0.4, which again is our first option. Question 3, it says, what is 625 as a power of 5? So how many times you have to multiply 5 by 5 to get 625? So I would probably go through the notion. So 5 to the power 1 is 5, 5 to the power 2 is 25, 3 is 125, 4 is 625. So our correct answer is our second option. Moving on to question 4, it says circle the order of rotational symmetry of this drawing. So again, counting the number of spikes of that sun, we can see that it's going to have 8. Then with question 5, it says work out the value of 3 to the power 6 minus the square root of 841. So if you type this into your calculator correctly, now you can either do it individually, in which you'd get 3 to the power of 6, which is 729, minus the square root of 841, which is 29. And if you take those two numbers away, you should have the correct answer of 700. Now I believe that if you do type this into your calculator and get an answer of 700, you probably will get the full marks. You may want to show you working out. It is what it is. So for question 6a, it says that Gemma has 4 groups of friends on her social media site. The table shows the number of friends in each of her groups. And the question says, which group is the mode? Well, the mode is the one that's most popular, whichever one contains the most, and it's going to be her school group. It then says that Gemma wants a pictogram to show the information. That's what you do with a bunch of friends. She has drawn the first 2 rows, complete the pictogram, and remember to complete the key. So we can see that we've got 2 completed circles for family, and we know that there's 8 friends or people in the family group. So that means that every little circle represents 4. Now in terms of a school, that represents 26. So if I draw circles counting 4 each time, so that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and then I just need another 2, which means that half a circle will be 2. Then for guides, that's 11, so that's going to be 2 full circles and then 3 quarters. So it's going to look something like that. Then with question 7, it says E is 3 more than D and F is 5 less than D. Write an expression for E in terms of D. So E equals, and it's going to be D plus 3. Then it says write an expression for F in terms of D. Well, if F is 5 less than D, then F is going to equal D minus 5. Then it says work out E minus F. So if I substitute those expressions from A and B, what do I get? Well, I get D plus 3, which is my E, minus my F, which is D minus 5. Now, if I write that, and this is my F, and that's minus, so what I've got is I've got D plus 3 minus D. Now, this is where a lot of students will probably go wrong because it's actually plus 5, because we've got a minus 1 outside the bracket. Minus 1 times D is minus D, but minus 1 times minus 5 is plus 5. Then simplifying this, D cancels with D, so then I've got 3 plus 5, which is 8. Then moving on to question 8, it says the numbers are 1 to 12 are put in a grid, 2, 4, 5, 7, 10, and 12 are shown. Each of the 4 sides of the grid must add up to 26, and it says complete the grid using numbers 1, 3, 8, 6, 8, 9, and 11. So from this, what you want to do is, first of all, let's complete this grid here. Now we know that those 3 numbers underneath have got to all add up to 26. So if we add these numbers up, take it away from 26, so minus 12, minus 4, minus 7, it gives me an answer of 3. So that's 3 taken off. We then can apply the same knowledge for working out this number here. So we can then do 26, take away 3, take away 5, take away 10, which gives me the answer of 8. Now, the numbers that are left are 1, 6, 9, and 11. Now, because the rows need to add up to 26, I know that 11 is not going to appear on this side here, the far side. So 11 has got to appear at the bottom. So then if I do 7, do the same for here. So 26, take away 7, take away 11, take away 2. I end up with an answer of 6, which is a good one because I can eliminate those. And then 9 and 1 must go in the other two boxes in any of those two orders. Then moving on to question 9, it says that in this question use that 1 foot equals 12 inches and 1 inch equals 2.5 centimeters, and we want to change 5 feet 8 inches into centimeters. So first of all, we know that 5 feet is going to be 12 times 5, which is 60, and then we need to add 8 inches to that, so that then becomes 68 inches. Now from this, what we then want to do is we then want to multiply that by 2.5. So what we then need to do is 68 times 2.5. Now you can either use the column method or you can use grid method, whichever way of multiplying with decimals you work at, but you should have the final answer of 170. Then moving on to question 10, it says which of these numbers has exactly 4 factors? Circle your answer. And the correct answer, well, for 4 we've got 1, 2 and 4. For 8 we've got 1, 2, 4 and 8. Well, there we go, we've got our first answer in our second attempt. Now question 11 says that Nick has a 6-digit code. He remembers it as 3 2-digit numbers. The first number is between 10 and 20 rather. The second number is 3 times the first number, and the third number is 5 times the first number. So for this, the method I would choose for this is if I write the first 2, the second 2, and the third 2, and I'm just going to do some columns like so. Now it says that the first 2 numbers are a number between 10 and 20. So it's either going to be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And now I'm running out of space, but we'll see where we go. Now for the second set of numbers, what I need to do is multiply all of these numbers by 2. Now every single number in the code is got to be a unique number. So if a number appears more than once, and for the third number I need to multiply this number by 5. So what I'm looking for is I'm deleting any numbers that appear in the first column or the second in terms of digits. So if I multiply this first one by 3, I don't know why I've written 2, so let's just change all of those to 3s and times that by 3 and that one by 3. So for the first one, we've got 11 times 3, which is 33. Now that's not going to work because, again, I've already duplicated the 1, duplicated 3s. 3 times 12 is 36, so that's fine. 13 times 3 is 39, so I've got 3's repeated, so it's definitely not going to be that. 14 times 3 is 42, so it's not going to be that. 15 times 3 is 45, but the 5's are repeated, so it's not that. 16 times 3 is 48, so that's fine. 17 times 3 is 51, but that doesn't work because the 1's are duplicated. 18 times 3 is 54, so that could work. And 19 times 3 is 57, so that's a possibility. So now if I multiply the first numbers by 5, so 12 times 5 is 60. Well, the 6's are duplicated, so that's not going to work. Then the next number for me to try is 16 times 5, which is 80. But again, the 8's are duplicated, so that's not going to work. And 18 times 5 is 90. That does work because, as you can see, I've got no duplications of numbers. So my answer then, although it looks incredibly messy, is going to be 1, 8, 5, 4, 9, 0. Then question 12 says, how many minutes are there in 5 1/4 hours? Well, 1/4 of an hour equals 15 minutes. And 5 hours is 5 times 60, which is 300 minutes. So I'm looking for 315, which is our first option. Then question 13, it says, here is a formula for the amount of water needed to cook rice. W is the number of cups of water needed, and R is the number of cups of rice to be cooked. How many cups of water needed to make 7 cups of rice? So for this, I just need to do 1.5 times 7 plus 0.5. Now, if I do that on my calculator, I should end up with an answer of 11. Then says, how many cups of rice can be cooked with 20 cups of water? So here I've got 1.5 times R plus 0.5 equals 20. So then if I then just go on and rearrange this, so I end up with 1.5 R equals 19.5, and then R equals 19.5 divided by 1.5. I type that into my calculator and I get an answer of 13. So question 14a, it says, use your calculator to work out 9.95 squared times 29.8. Write your answer as a decimal. Write down your full calculator answer. So for this, you should have 2950.2745. It then says, is your answer part A sensible? Use approximations to decide. So what we need to do here is basically round these numbers up to its nearest sig fig. So 9.95 is basically 10, and 29.8 is roughly 30. So here I've got 100 times 30, which gives me an answer of 33,000. Actually, or 3,300. So is this answer close to this answer here? Well, yes. So yes, it's a sensible approximation. Oh, and we can tick that box actually. So then moving on to question 15, it says the graph of y equals 4 minus x for the values of -2 and 5 is shown on the grid. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals 2x minus 5 for the values of -2 and 5. So what I need to do here is draw a table of values. Now, because I know it's a straight line, I've just got to pick 3 coordinates. I'm going to go for 0, 1, and 2. So for this first one, it's going to be 0 times 2, which is 0. Take away 5 is -5. 2 times 1 is 2, take away 5 is -3, and 2 times 2, which is 4, take away 5 is -1. So then what I'm going to plot is 0 minus 5, 1 minus 3, and 2 minus 1. So then from the graph, if I just scroll down a little bit, so 0 minus 5 is there, 1 minus 3 is there, and 2 minus 1 is about there. So then all I then need to do is, with a line, join those points up. Now you do need to make sure that your line does in fact go through all those points, but also that it does go through the x values of -2 and 5. So you just basically go up to the edges of your graph to what you should have. So for example, up to 5 will be the bare minimum, but if you can go that little bit extra, that should be absolutely fine. And make sure you do have a line that goes through it. Now, in terms of use your graph to solve the equation of 2x minus 5 equals 4 minus x. Now here, they're not looking for this, you can't solve this algebraically. Basically, what you're looking for is the point in which those 2 points meet. And you should find that if you have joined your graph correctly, which I haven't, because I know what the answer looks like. So let me just delete that and let me draw a more accurate line, and like so, and let me then just extend the line to what we should have, like so. Now, and where we're looking is where the x value of where those two lines intersect, which is at 3. Then moving on to question 16, it says BCD is a straight line, triangle ABC is equilateral, CE equals DE, work out the size of angle X. So looking at this, what we know that if this is an isosceles triangle, we can work this angle out here and this angle out here by doing 180 minus 28 divided by 2. And if I work that out on my calculator, I get an answer of 76. So this angle here is 76 and this angle here is 76. Now because the triangle ABC is equilateral, it basically means that each of these angles are going to be 60. Now if that is the case, then to work out x, all I've got to do is do 180 minus those other two angles, and I should have an answer of 44 degrees. Then moving on to question 16b, it says Amber is working out the size of the interior angle of a regular octagon. Her method is interior angle equals 360 divided by 8. Is her method correct? And what we need to do is we need to tick the answer of no. And the reason for that is because the total sum of angles is going to equal, and if I pick a point, let's just pick this one here and draw lines to all the other lines, you can see here that I'm going to end up with 6 triangles. So it's going to be 6 times 180, which is 1080. Then if I divide that by the number of angles, which is 8, so divide that by 8. So in other words, what we should have written, or something along the lines of, she should divide 1080 by 8, not 360. And again, the reason why is because total angles in an octagon add up to 1080. Next question there says, here is a map of an island with cities A, B and C. The straight lines represent roads. It says A is due west from B. Write down the bearing of A from B. So basically, if I draw a north line, I want to work out what is the bearing of this angle here. Well, it's going to be 270. Then with question 17b, it says Uma drives A to B in the route shown and Kaz drives from B to C in the route shown. Use the map to work out how much further Uma drives than Kaz, and you must show you're working out. So for this, obviously it's going to be based on how the question is presented to you, whether it's in an A5 booklet or if it's A4. But generally speaking, if it's the official paper, so it's printed on A4, then you should have the total length that Uma drives between 6.3 and 6.7. That would be tolerable, but the actual answer you should have is 6.5 centimeters. Then using the scale, if I multiply that by 200, I get an answer of 1,300, and the units are kilometers. Then if I do the same for Kaz, so then Kaz drives, and then the correct answer, now we've got 2 parts to add up. So the first part, any answer between 2.5 and 2.9, but the correct answer you should have is 2.7 plus, and then for the second part, you should have an answer between 1.8 and 2.2, but the official answer you should have is 2 centimeters, giving you an official answer of 4.7, times that by 200, and that gives me an answer of 940 kilometers. So then all I then need to do is work out the difference between those two numbers. So then the difference is going to be 1300 minus 940, which gives me an answer of 360. Then looking at question 18, it says that a shop sells raincoats and umbrellas. The scatter graph shows the monthly sales for 12 months. And it says write down the type of correlation shown by the graph. Now I would say that on this, it's going to be a positive, and I would go as far as saying it's strong as well. But I would say definitely positive for 1 mark, I say would be good enough. It then says the manager expects the sales of the umbrellas next month to be £80. Draw a line of best fit and estimate the number of sales of raincoats next month. So what we need to do here is draw a line of best fit. So again, your line of best fit, you want to kind of be as close as possible to the points and have the same number of points above the line as you do below. Now once you have drawn your line of best fit, which should look something that looks like this, you then need to draw a line from 60 going up, and then your answer will be whatever this horizontal line here. So this value here is going to be the answer. Now, depending on where it lies, on my line, it's going to be 135. But again, yours might be slightly different. But as long as you've used the correct method and you've drawn the line of best fit, you've drawn a projection line, then that should be fine. Then moving on to question 19, it says multiply out the brackets. So here you should have x squared minus 4x, which is our third option. It then says for 20, it says a to b is equal to 5 to 2. How many times larger is a to b? So for this, what we need to do is convert the ratios into equations. So I've got a over b equals 5 over 2. Then if I cross multiply, I end up with 2a equals 5b. And then from this, I can then say that a is equal to 5 over 2b, which is a equals 2.5b. So how many times bigger is a than b? Well, it's going to be 2.5. It then says that a circle has a radius of 4.2. Work out the length of the circumference. So for this, the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, or pi times d. Now, if the radius is 4.2, then the diameter is going to be 8.4. So I'm going to go for the radius formula. So I'm going to do 2 times pi times 4.2. And that to one decimal place should give me the answer of 26.4. Another alternative is you could just do pi times 8.4. And again, rounded up should give you 26.4. And it is important that you do round up to 1 dp, as that would be worth a mark in itself. Question B then says circle below shows the circle below has center O. Draw a sector on the circle. So for this, a sector is just a mathematical word for a slice. So what you just need to do is draw a slice. Doesn't matter where it is, and then you can shade it if need be. But obviously, please do use a ruler. I know I'm not setting a very good example. Question 22 says that 2 ordinary fair die are rolled. Complete the tree diagram. So if the probability of getting less than a 3 is a third, then the probability of getting 3 or more is going to be 2/3. And then all I need to do is just repeat the process. Now, if you did write 4 over 6, that should be fine. But again, you always want to try and simplify your fractions if it is possible. The next question then says, work out the probability that both dice land on a number that is less than 3. So less than 3 is a third. So it's going to be a third, and means times. So it's going to be a third times a third, which is 1 over 9. Then moving on to question 23, it says match up each of the sequence to its description. Now, if you've done this correctly, you should have something that looks like this. And again, in terms of where the marks are allocated, I would say you'll lose a mark for every single one you did incorrectly. Now, for question 24, it says the table shows information about the population of a city. Leon claims that from 2011 to 2021, the population of the city will increase by the same percentage as of 2001 to 2011. He says he works out the population increase from 2001 to 2011, then he works out the difference and then does the calculation as he does. It says, does the population of 540,000 match his claim? So the first thing we want to work out is the percentage increase from 2001 to 11. Now, how do we do that? Well, it's going to be the difference between the two, which is 60,000, divided by the original population, which was 420,000. And if we multiply that by 100, we get a percentage of 14.3%, and that's to one decimal place. Then if we do 11 to 21 and we work out the difference, which is going to be 60,000 over the population that it was in 2011, 2011. So that's going to be 48000, and we multiply that by 100, not 1,000. I'm going to be crazy with the zeros there. And we get a percentage of 12.5%, and that's to one decimal place. Now you can see here that as the percentages are different, then does the population match his claim? No, it does not. And there we go. Moving on to question 25, it says, on 3 days, Ali throws darts at a target. Here are his results. And it says, work out 2 different estimates for the probability of Ali hitting the target. Now, what you're wanting is basically to show any 2 fractions of the number from the second column with its respective number from the first one. So an example of this can be any of the 2 that I've selected. So it's going to be 15 over 20. And let's just write that here, which is 3 over 4 and 17 over 40. Now, moving on to question 25b, it says, which of the 2 answers is a better estimate for the probability of Ali hitting the target? Give your reason for the answer. Well, I've chosen, if I go back to the table, I chose Monday and Wednesday. And that's Wednesdays. So which is better? Well, the answer is going to be Wednesday. And the reason for that is because we've aimed for more targets. So the number of trials is greater. So whichever you go for, so you could have gone for Monday and Tuesday, Monday and Wednesday, which I've done. You could even have gone for Monday in the total. That would have been absolutely fine. But in terms of which one's better, the total one is going to be better because you've got number of throws is 90. The next best is Wednesday, next best is Tuesday, and the worst one is Monday. So whichever one you go for, the one that's got the most number of throws is going to be the better option to go for. So question 26 says, Theo starts with savings of £18. James starts with 0 savings. Each week from now, Theo saves £4.50 and James saves £4. In how many weeks will Theo and James have the savings in the ratio of 15 to 8? Now for this, what we want to do is at week 0, we've got Theo and we've got James. Now, here in week 0, Theo's got 18 and James has got 0. Now, for Theo, what we're going to do is going to add 4.5, and for James, we're going to add 4. And what we're going to look for is a ratio of 15 to 8. So, week 1, we add £4.50 to Theo, so that's going to be £22.50, and James is going to have £4. In week 2, it's going to be 27 and 8. In week 3, it's going to be 31.50 and 12. In week 4, it's going to be 36 and 16. Week 5, it's going to be 40.5 and 20. And week 6 is going to be 45 and 24. Now, if we simplify this fraction here, we get 15 to 8. So it's going to be after 6 weeks. Then moving on to question 27, it says the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, where r is the radius. A container is a hemisphere, radius of 30 centimeters. Sand fills the container at a rate of 40,000 centimeter cubes per minute. Does it take less than a quarter of an hour to fill the container? So the first thing we need to do is work out the volume of the hemisphere. So the volume of a full sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, but as it's a hemisphere, we need to divide that by 2. So on my calculator, I'm going to do 4/3 times pi times 30 cubed, all divided by 2. And if I do that, then the answer I should get is 18,000 pi. Now what I then want to do is I then want to divide that by 4,000, because that's the rate in which it fills. And that gives me an answer of 14.1 minutes. Now, is that, well, 14.1 is less than 15 minutes, which is quarter of an hour. So the answer is yes, it does. For the next question, it says the length of each side of a regular pentagon is 8.4 to 1 decimal place. Complete the error interval. Well, 1 decimal place is 0.1. So if I divide that by 2, I get 0.05. So then I need to do 8.4 plus or minus 0.05. So it's going to be 8.35 and 8.45. It then says complete the error interval for the perimeter. So what I need to do is I need to multiply this by 5 because it's a pentagon, and multiply that by 5. So I get the error interval of 41.75 as the smallest, and the biggest it's going to be is 42.5. 0.25. And that concludes the end of this paper. Now we'll put the grade boundaries, so once you've marked your paper, you can then see what grade you've attained for this individual paper too.